Welcome to the Corpus Christi Songwriter Podcast. I'm Jules.
I'm Jimmy.
I'm Garrett.
I'm Poet.
Hey. Yeah, this is Poet Hawkins. And I was doing a little research on you. Also when you submitted for the festival, but just now before we hopped on. And I love what the Austin Music Foundation says about you. So I was just going to read this real quick. It's the sound of a heart breaking and slowly putting itself back together. Or rather, as described by Austin Music Foundation, a voice reminiscent of Alexi Murdoch or Nick Drake.
Oh, Nick Drake. Whoa.
We have Austinite by way of California, right? Mr. Poet Hawkins. Did I get all, is all that correct?
You did. You did.
All right.
That is
Perfect. All right. So I when I was doing a little bit of research on you, I heard that you were originally from California. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was actually born in California.
Where in California?
In Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah, and grew up in North Carolina, made my way back. And once I found music, man, the rest is just history. It's been nonstop songwriting ever since.
And
nice.
How long has it been since you wrote your first song?
Gosh, I think it's over 20 years. I'm going to stop counting and just keep writing.
Yeah, I think once it's over 20, you're safe to stop counting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was during the pandemic you found your way to Austin?
Yeah, so oddly enough, I work at a law firm. And once I saw what was happening with the pandemic and they sent us home, and, over time, LA was changing. And I had gotten married, and I just said, you know what? Now is the time. So I was kind of seizing the opportunity. And oddly enough, I'm still with my employer
Nice.
out in Austin, working, making music, and outside of getting married, the second best decision I ever made.
Nice.
That's wonderful.
Awesome.
So who are some of your inspirations?
Oh, man, I'm going to have to start off with my dad, because my dad was in a gospel group.
Great answer.
They toured, and I always knew that I would pick it up at some point. And when I did, it was just, like I said, I haven't looked back. Nina Simone in college, I would say it was my first vocal coach, because, back when I'd go to Barnes and Nobles and, spend my money on some CDs and things of that nature, she's somebody that I found and I really fell in love with her music. Who else, man? There's a group from South Africa called Black Sunshine. That was another group that was really impactful to me, wanting to finally step over that line in songwriting.
Yeah.
And so, I could rattle off a lot of the big names as well, right? Your Jimmys and your Bob Dylan's. Yeah,
not you, Jimmy.
Not me. Okay.
Well, do you listen to Nick Drake? Have you ever jammed Nick Drake?
I love Nick Drake.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting that they mentioned Nick Drake, because you don't hear a lot of people talk about Nick Drake.
Yeah, it doesn't pop out of nowhere. A lot of interesting. Growing up in high school, because I went to school in Charlotte. Hootie and the Blowfish, Cranberries.
Of course.
Those were some bands that,
dude.
we were jamming to that music, along with Outkast, right? And, Wu-Tang Clan. So it was a very diverse mixture. And once I found guitar and fell into playing, I definitely lean more towards the softer side of guitar and piano.
Well, what's your primary instrument? Are you guitar or piano?
So lately, since moving to Texas, man, it's cold. I'm piano.
Yeah.
When it's 50 degrees and you're outside, there's no way I'm able to just hold that guitar. So I've been playing a lot more piano.
Nice.
I did play in church for a number of years. And so the thing about gospel music and jazz, it just opens you up a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I would say that I can do a few more things on piano than I can on guitar. But guitar is definitely my first love. And wrote a lot of songs from guitar, and it's definitely a big part of my sound.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. Going through your catalog here, it seems like you've released a few singles, since the pandemic, off and on, I guess, but no full albums. Is that correct? Or at least not through streaming services. Yeah,
they're not up on streaming yet. They've been written, and Austin has been great being able to play and build up my studio and my space. Yeah. And we're working on all those records. I got a grant from the city of Austin.
Hell yeah.
The Live Music Fund grant. So that's helping to fund a record that we're tracking right now, and I'm super excited about it.
Nice.
That's
And
amazing.
that'll be coming out in March.
Where are you recording, Poet?
We're doing this one at the house, man.
Nice.
I've got a guy that's playing bass in Tulsa. I've got a couple guitar players here, organ players in LA. I'm going to take a stab at programming the drums. It's something I love to do, and I played a little bit. If it falls short, then I got somebody, on speed dial.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting, man, to sort of, as an artist, right? Like, especially in LA, right? Because you spend most of your money trying to live, to then have some money to record, and you realize, whoa, $10,000, it's a lot, but then it's not a lot.
It's not, yeah.
When you're trying to make a record and you need to get it mixed and you want to promote the record a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
It got swallowed up. Yeah. So we're here. I love recording. I've been doing it almost as long as I've been songwriting.
Oh, nice.
And I'm definitely a student of engineering and gear. And I definitely wouldn't do it if I didn't feel like I was up to the challenge. So
nice. And
very cool.
These the singles that you've released so far, are they produced by you or engineered elsewhere?
I produced Wild Ride, and my good buddy Garfield Adams in LA mixed and mastered that one.
Nice.
The other songs, I worked with two amazing guys, Noah Needleman and John Kaplan in LA, and I think John Kaplan mixed them, and I believe they had someone else master them. I don't know who that was, but those are some songs that are really important to me, and I'm so glad that I worked on them with those guys. It was a great studio experience. I'm always learning from guys like that, and I'm really grateful and proud of those records. And then, so one of them, what is that song? I'm forgetting it now. The Things I Know I did with Austin Music Foundation. I love those guys. And then one of them I did with another guy that used to live in Austin, Together Alone. And he produced that one and mixed it. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I love Together Alone. That's
nice.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm guessing that one is kind of inspired by the pandemic, or
Together. We co-wrote it, and I think we were just kind of talking. You ever been in a co-write and it just starts flowing? And I think, he had the music, and we just, when it comes to words, man, I just go for it, because I started off with poetry.
Nice.
And so it takes me very little time to get into an idea, and I just start going for it. So
you have some poetry. Oh, sorry, poet. Poetry. Yeah, I was just to see if you had any poetry inspirations that you go to, like if you start as a poet, like.
So in LA, there's a place called the World Stage, and there's a couple guys, Peter J. Harris, Michael Datcher, D Black, A.K. Tony. Those are guys that were like huge mentors that are local legends and very talented writers in their own right. So many writers that came through that place that really shaped me as a writer and helped me to grow. And if you listen to any of my words, the way that I can really kind of zoom in on a moment and really paint a picture is where that comes from. And I'm super grateful. And also my dad as well. He's a very accomplished songwriter. He's still working on music.
Nice.
And so that's where a lot of that poetry comes from.
Nice.
Yeah, and we're big on poetry here, and also just literature in general. A lot of our songwriters that we've had on before talk about how literature plays a huge part in their songwriting. Is that something that rings true to you?
Yeah, it does. It does. I've always fancied writing. Even in school, I wanted to rap when I first started college, like many young men do. And I was like, hey, man, I got to make beats. Well, if I got to make beats, I got to play. And then once I started playing, it was over for the rap career. But I've definitely always had an affinity for words and being very introspective. Not reading as much now, more so like watching YouTube, trying to figure out how to go viral. But definitely love books. And it's a big part of our household. My wife has a publishing company as well. Really? Yeah, so we're surrounded by books and
nice.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Nice.
And what kind of now I'm interested. What kind of books does your wife
so right now she focuses on poetry.
Nice.
She's got a few books out. Yeah. Mama's Kitchen Press. I'm actually signed on there as a as a poet as well. I have a book coming out.
Hey. You missed this before you hopped on, Garrett, but Jules was giving us a rendition of his latest poem. So do you think Jules has a chance at your wife's publishing?
Jules, yeah, man. Jules is a wordsmith, man. He knows how to do it.
The subject matter recently has been grim and edgy. Listeners can't really see this right now, but I've been examining and staring at certain props before I begin writing this sort of poetry. And so one of the props I was looking at recently is a set of brass knuckles that I'm holding up here, right? Another is this wild ass knife that's here as well.
What the hell?
Well, I'm telling you that
what is that thing?
You're kind of scaring me, Jules.
Well, no, I love it. I'm saying that poetry, my feelings on poetry in so many ways, man, is that you need to be saying the thing that other people dare not say and are scared to say.
Yeah.
You need to be teasing out moments that are you're really. When I say teasing out, you're making the smallest detail the largest sort of, descriptive of what you're talking about, right? So if I'm trying to write a poem called Knife, which, I read it before we started recording just to kind of show a draft of it, right? And it's about that uneasiness of that tension of when you're holding a knife, what are you going to do with this blade? And in that, as a human being, you have so many thoughts and fears and so teasing that out and extrapolating that, sometimes you need an object to accompany that writing process, to really place you in that moment to say the things that people are scared to say. Yeah. So I'm not just bringing out hand weapons on here for no reason, but it's this is stuff that I've been looking at lately to grenade. Yeah, right.
It's a prop. Well, it's a prop, and it's but you know what it is though, Jules? Okay, so this goes back to almost a very essential, not even a philosophical thing, but a meditative thing.
Right.
And meditation. I play music, poet. I play music for my church, this little hippie church here in town, and I write songs for them sometimes. But one of the things they say is you can either close your eyes. We do a meditation session. You can close your eyes and do the meditation, or you can focus on an object. And it's got this very meditative quality that if you focus on this one object, you kind of zone out and you zone in at the same time. And so it kind of lets you really get to that headspace. It's kind of an interesting thing that I think you're getting at that, Jules, the other way around.
A little bit, man. I'm trying, man, because I feel we could all practice a sort of courtly love, we could all exercise our poetic muscles by having a common sort of muse that we go to. And I don't know, man, love letters today are not the love letters of old, these aren't Civil War letters that with the penmanship and the word choice. And right. So beautiful. So there are things in our postmodern condition, man, in this sort of hyper-mediated world that I feel we should get back to sort of some of the questions of being, what is it to be, and if I'm a human being here and it is a tough thing to withstand, this human condition, and I'm riddled with anxiety and with fears and trepidation towards an uncertainty in the future, getting at those ideas and bringing those out, if you're feeling it, the other people are feeling it too. So
the universality of the specificity of what you're talking about. So the more specific, the more universal almost.
Somebody said that recently. The smaller you write, the more universal it becomes.
It's true, though. And it's also kind of a matter of any of our things that we're talking about. When you're songwriting, you're noticing. You're noticing. You're awake. You're not in your phone. You're actively participating in the moment, which none of us do anymore. We're always somewhere else,
A lot of that goes back to Buddhist practices like mindfulness, observing one's thoughts without judgment.
Watch them above yourself. You're above yourself watching.
So and I mean, I apologize, Poet. We're trying to get in a field away from talking about you a little bit, man. But if I may,
Jules,
like
Jules does this.
Yeah, I do this. I pull us away and then we return back. But I will say that listeners, you may want to look this up. It would be interesting. I would not recommend participating in this sort of thing, but there's an organization known as Landmark Education. And it's something that I attended in New York City, something called the Forum. And again, this is not something I recommend listeners attend or do, right? But one of the just get through this, man, to get to the point that I want to tell you guys about. One of the exercises that they do, I was on 34th Street in a basement for a whole weekend with like 200 people, never met any of these people. And one of the exercises they had you do was they had you, 50 people in a line, right? 4 lines of 50 people, and they made us stand toe-to-toe, like straight up toe-to-toe, and maintain eye contact for just an extended, undisclosed amount of time. It might have been 45 minutes. It might have been 2 hours. It might have been 20 minutes, Yeah. But when you do that with a person that you've never met and you stand there with them and you observe your thoughts without judgment, you first of all, anybody you maintain eye contact with for like 20 minutes straight, you can just fall in love with. You just but you go through this sort of like cycle of like, you start out by like maybe thinking you don't have anything in common with this person. Why am I in their personal space? I don't like this person's breath. Right?
Yeah.
And after a while, it gets to where like, wait a second, if I'm feeling this, then the other person probably doesn't like my breath. Probably doesn't think they have anything in common with me. And after about, I don't know, a set course of time, you start really seeing this person's scars, the impressions the world has created upon them, the way their presence, you can almost feel who they are as a human being, and then you start to feel a bit of shame around like feeling like you had nothing in common with this person, like there were worlds of separation, and so it's really transformative the way this takes you through it. But it speaks to the universality of what we're talking about. Of like, if you're feeling this underneath your own human condition, other people are feeling this as well. And so the smaller that you write, the more universal it becomes. And then you have some of these weird experiences like I'm detailing here, and it really affirms that like the way that we suffer and feel is not unique.
No.
Like we're not the first people to suffer. We're not the first people to experience an emotion. And there's been a whole history of human beings describing and speaking to these emotions and these feelings, a whole history of thought. And so like, as poets, as writers, when we try to write small and universal, we also need to be conscientious that like there are other people who have already thought through this more so than we have, to further logical ends than we will ever get to on our own, and probably better, right? More clarified lines of thoughts, right? And so you must go back to the poets. You must go back to the philosophers. You must read in order to generate good writing, good poetry. Anyway, that's a long way of detailing a bunch of stuff.
That was a long way of. I think he was just trying to tell you that he loves you, Poet, because he mentioned like staring in someone's eyes for 20 minutes. And suddenly,
but that's a good segue, though.
Yeah, no way of not falling in love with them. So I think that's
Poet. What is your segue from that, Poet? What's your writing process, man? How do you go about writing songs?
Man,
I'm sure it's different.
I've been telling people that I never like to let a song get past me. And I do that a couple ways. So right now, you guys can't see it, but there's a piano that's on 24/7 right here underneath.
I do see it in your glasses.
Yeah. That piano is always fired up.
Nice.
Always at the computer, ready to kind of jump into something if the mood happens. I'm usually writing in my room. When I have a record idea, so my next album is called Electric Heart, it does something. It opens up the floodgates, and it's been that way every record. Once I lock in on a big idea, all the songs just start coming in these stories, and it's like I just open up to all the possibilities, and I'm listening, for songs that are coming through me. I also like to say that I'm very lucky as a songwriter because early on, when you hear that voice saying, "Hey man, this is a little something different," right? But are people going to understand it? And I've been fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time, where people have affirmed the way that I say things, and so now I just believe it wholeheartedly. So I'm always writing. Always just, I got hundreds of sessions with small ideas, big ideas, reworked ideas. And I think this is a wonderful time in music to be writing and recording. It's also a very bad time because I feel like artists are torn between having to create content and write music. So you find that a lot of songs, typically when I let, an album play and I go into Spotify land and they're telling me what I want to listen to.
Yeah.
I just find that the writing is not really scraping away enough of that top layer of things that we've already heard. And I think it's because people are like, if I got to put this record out and I got to finance it and I got to do this.
Exactly.
They're taking a break on the writing. And, that's one place where I'll never, sell myself short on that.
So you're songwriter first and then performer second.
Even at the expense of maybe some, I think, I believe whatever's for me is for me, right? But at the expense of being more popular, I'd rather be like a writer's writer.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Love that.
That guy that other songwriters like that guy.
Yeah.
Hey, can we talk about like the big concept top-down writing method you talked about though? Because
that's pretty awesome, Poet.
Yeah, like I love that, man. Like,
Me too.
Like I tend to think of like grand sort of concepts and then write down and compose albums that way, like, and I tend to search for big concepts in order to follow that. If it doesn't result in an album, maybe it results in 2 or 3 cool songs or something, One of the bigger concepts I followed is like turn into mountain time, just the concept of like mountain time. It's like time on the mountain. What does a mountain do to your time? How does it change your experience of time? All that stuff, right? My last album was called Whiskey Clear. It's about being clear of whiskey. And I think of like certain really cool concepts I wish I had thought of. Like I think of like John Legend's album, Love in the Future. Like Love in the Future is such a cool concept, right?
Yeah.
Can you maybe share with us some of the, I mean, if it's something that's not like sensitive to your overall projects and shouldn't be disclosed, but what are some big concepts that you've thought about that intrigued you, that you took to writing into?
One of them was my parents' relationship as I've gotten older and realized it is really hard to keep this up, right? For some people. And so, I think I was like 18, 20 songs deep on that project because the ideas were so strong, just thinking about, as I go through things with my wife, like what my dad might have gone through, he was on the road and having kids and having a family and trying to make it work. And, those are things that I think sometimes, with songwriting, especially the push and pull, it's more so right than you cheated on me or, you're looking at another girl. Like those are just the surface level concepts.
Surface things.
When you're in a relationship, or I don't know if any of you guys are married, but you got some days, man, where you're just at the edge, man, but something pulls you back. And it's really deep. It's really emotional. And that's where something like Together Alone comes from, right? How to articulate those ideas without saying the most common, really painting that picture. So there's some, I won't say political, there's some social things I really would love to tackle, right? Like when you think about the Marvin Gaye's, the what's going on, like who's that person of our time that is articulating the voice of the people, but also leading the charge musically. And I think one of the things about that is I think there's a way to do political social music and it be great music.
Yeah.
But you've really got to, get into the whole thing where these sort of one-off songs, they're okay, but it doesn't really encapsulate the voice of the people. And that's something that I would love to be that person.
Yeah.
You're hitting on stuff that's really resonating with me right now, man.
Yeah, man. Well, Marvin Gaye, that's a good point. It's a good example, Poet, because that's like, okay, so if you think about what's going on, It's a concept album, which is crazy. All the songs flow into each other, so it's kind of groundbreaking for Motown, especially. It's a social album, and it's a political album. But then every song individually works as a song. They make you feel good, and they make you think something, make you feel something, and like the I hate the word synergy, but the synergy of those three things is not easy to do. Especially if you want something that, man, this thing works as a song, and if I'm just listening to it as a song, I'm enjoying it. This thing is making me think. This thing is making me feel. This thing is making me like, wow, I've never heard an album done almost like an opera, but Motown style. Like, dude, it's one continuous, it's gorgeous, you know? Like, that, I love that album for that reason. Like, it's just, you're right. Who's doing that nowadays? We're so worried about content creation and the fucking algorithm. Like, what else is like, nobody has time to think about that, or they don't, I don't know, maybe they don't want to think about it. I don't know. So yeah.
They do, and I feel like the if we're really being honest and having a conversation, guys, I think sometimes for some artists, what happens is when they release a song and it gets popular, it almost becomes trivialized with the algorithm, because people are not as creative as we think, right? So they take your song that's kind of, doing well, and then they turn it into some comedy thing because they think, oh, well, I don't have an idea, or I don't have my own original idea, so let me take this. And I don't see that with all songwriters, but it's also the writers like the Ray LaMontaignes, or, maybe even someone like the John Mayers, people who are, well, John Mayer's maybe not a good example. I'm thinking of like Derek Trucks, bands that are like popular, can fill out a big room, a big stadium, but they're not so high up that people can just take their art and start to do whatever they want to do with it. That's something that's really a sore spot for me as a songwriter, because these are our songs, man. These are our stories. These are what we want people to go back and listen to, 20 years from now or 10 years from now. I don't know if you guys know that their band, the Black Pumas.
Oh yeah.
I found out that Color song, which blew up, I don't know if that was 2-4 years ago. That song was 10 years old before it blew up.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the real writers, we have to put the energy and the effort into our songs so that whether you sing it 5 years from now or 10 years from now, it'll really stand the test of time. And that comes from just hard work, attention to detail, really trying to get close to the source. And I'm just super grateful that that was what was put on my heart as a songwriter.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Nice. Close to the source is good. Yeah. Close to the source is a good phrase, Poet.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
I was very lucky last year to, thanks to my good buddy, Mitch Ballard, I was able to travel a little bit.
Nice.
And until you take and this happened to me a while ago, but until you get out of your comfort zone, right? Because there's this collective unity in our communities. I'm sure you guys have it in Corpus Christi, and I can't wait to get out there and be with you guys. And it's here in Austin where everybody's in this thing together, right? It's almost like what Jules was saying. It's 20 writers at a cafe, right? Listening to each other. And so you want to support, and you do support each other, and you encourage them because you kind of know what they're going through. They know what you're going through. But it's not until you go into a strange land, you go to Maryland or you go to Nashville, and you say, hey, is this song reaching people? Yeah. Or is it just reaching people that are telling me, hey, this song is good because we like you, Poet, as a person? Yeah. And I think, I'm debating on doing this post and telling people like, hey, man, some of you guys in Austin, even though you're not in the festival, you need to get down there and try to get on the open mic or really get a chance to see what these festivals are like, because it's a whole different level of writing. It's a different level of customer service as far as Jimmy and Abby, the guys that are putting this on. It's world-class customer service, and almost don't even want to book as much here in town because some artists, we don't deserve that, right? Like, I get it, you can't accept everybody, right? Yeah. But you tell people in a courteous way, no. I've heard stories of people just not responding, people just being left in the lurch about, do you like me? Do you not like me? Do you just not have enough space? Are you booked out till 2027?
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
I'm really wanting to kind of lead the charge because I see some younger writers here in town that are talented.
Yeah.
But when I was coming up, and like I said, I'm a bit older, I had people around me and we ran around LA and played shows, right? And did that whole thing. But there wasn't any social media. So I didn't realize how much more popular X person was than me, right? There wasn't the Spotify rap, right? I didn't know that somebody I've never heard of has got 20 million plays and I got 2,000.
Yeah.
So we were just writing and just trying to do the best writing that we could. And I'm so glad that I did that because now it's really paying off and setting me apart from, the other noise that's out there.
For sure.
Yeah, man.
When you moved to Austin, you're talking about, being embraced and things like that. Did you find, I guess, your Austin family right away, or how did that go?
I did, man. Funny story.
Nice.
My wife, because we moved like mid-pandemic. I mean, like,
oh man,
things were still shut down, right?
Oh
so there was no open mics, and then maybe after about a year, I was like, "Oh, I want you to make some friends," and I was like, "Look, when I go out and sing, I'm going to make friends, right? It's a spirit that I carry. It's what's always happened to me and like I said, I learned it in LA, being observant, being humble, going to a space and not saying, hey, look, I'm from LA, I can do all this. And saying, hey, man, I want to see what you guys are doing, and this is what I'm doing. So the first mic that I went to, where did I go? I don't remember which one I went to first. One of them was at this place called Mozart's, and I ran into a good friend now, Chloe Yahtzee. And I think people really hear what I'm doing. And that's what, I'm not surprised anymore, but Texans love and understand music on a level that I just haven't seen. And there's no shade to LA because it's been great and people really accepted me there. But I mean, I have little kids, 7, 8 years old, older people, 70s, 80s, people of all nationalities, listening and hearing the words that I'm saying. It kind of goes back to our earlier conversation about people are really listening. People want to hear and be fed, and want to be a part of a certain thing. And so, when I got here, every place that I touched, I was really welcomed. I had my own sound and my own thing, and it's really been great to be here. And I'm so glad that we landed here. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And I love, you get there, you start playing these open mic nights, and then in short order, you're playing South by Southwest as an official artist, correct?
Yeah. So
nice,
man, I'm trying to tell people, man, you've got to have your eyes and your ears open, right? So I go to this mic that I've been going to, right? And I overhear this guy talking about Austin Music Foundation. And I'm just standing there, right? I don't know these guys. And he's like, yeah, and they do this consult and they listen to your music. And something in me said, hey, that sounds like a good idea. You should do that. As soon as I sent that email and from them responding, my whole life, my whole music career just changed. Because there are people here that want to help, that want to see writers succeed, that want to share good music, that want to put you in places that they know that you belong. So I don't think it's not a race, right? But I've been able to play some places here in town that otherwise I would still be scratching my head had it not been for Austin Music Foundation, for BMI. Literally when I walked into BMI, don't tell anybody, but I actually had dual membership still. I wasn't supposed to. I booked a consult. I booked a show from there immediately.
Nice.
It's been nonstop, just an amazing thing of being open to the opportunities and seeking out opportunities, right? Because having traveled last year, when I saw the Corpus Christi, I think I played a show with, I'm forgetting her name right now, and I was like, look, man, I gotta jump on this. This is somewhere I feel like I want to be. And everything that I've seen from you guys, I'm just excited, to get down there and be with you guys and hear the other writers. And it's not until you get in that environment, right, with people that are better, or no, I hate to say better, right, more seasoned, people that have written big songs, people that are still writing up and coming songs that you, I just stay in this space of inspiration, man. It's unbelievable.
Right.
Yeah,
What I love
sure.
about the festival is it's the great evener, right? And basically, in some capacity, we're all the same, and so you get to talk to people who may have bigger songs than you, but at this moment in time, we're the same, and we can have a good conversation about that.
Yep.
Yep.
Hey, can I
Very
just say
cool.
that, like, for listeners, especially listeners who are performing songwriters who are trying to get booked out everywhere, man, I got to tell you, man, that like I've been a booker, and on the other side of that, it's a totally different experience, right? So like, so on the one hand, like if you're a writer and you're like really going after a venue, and you're like, I really, and maybe at some point, and you shouldn't do this, right? You shouldn't, I don't know, like in your own mind, stake like you're being accepted by this venue as part of the "you're made it" recipe. You know, like you like don't even take these venues into the essence of who you are as an artist, man. You know, send them an email. If they don't respond to you, it's not personal. A, they're getting inundated, right? B, even if they do read your stuff, you may not be a good fit. And C, there's not really a great way for them to respond to you to turn you down in a way that is like, you know, you're either, I mean, it's just, there's probably a reason why they didn't send you an email back, you know? So like as an artist, it's kind of like it helps if you've been in sales because you get told no a lot. And so part of, you know, you obviously need to retain the sensitivity of an artist and resonate with and be empathic with like the stories that you're attempting to tell through music and poetry. But damn, do you have to have the resilience of just a used car salesman, you know? But the other side of that, man, is you know, and you also have to have the damn humility of a sage, right? Because you're talking about, dude, you're playing South by Southwest. You're clearly good at what you do, right? So one needs to mitigate this own propensity of, we'll call it egoism, right? To where like you retain a sincere and authentic interest in the other. So when you go into these spaces, you need to be interested authentically in like what these other people are doing and what art is coming out of these spaces. And in due time, someone will say, hey, well, what do you do? And then you show them what you do. And even if you don't show them all of what you do, it's like that goes a lot farther than like, I mean, you know, sometimes you got to just go to the open mic night and blow the place up, you know. But if you're trying to be a part of a scene and contribute to a scene and make better a scene, and then that's definitely the way that you must go about it, is like with this sort of humility of a sage like you're speaking to. But I don't think that in itself, dude, is altogether separate from what we were discussing before that, which is like, how does one go about music in a political way, I suppose? Like, how does one go about expressing one's viewpoints, political viewpoints, explicit viewpoints through music in a way that is still musically good? You know, and so you know, you mentioned poetry and rap. You know, in a way, I've always admired the way that like rap. Not only are you able to communicate in a more long form poetic sort of way, but rap has always been explicitly political as a genre, and it was. Political in the sense that when it was formed, it was made to tell the stories of people out of the Bronx, you know, out of New York in the 80s, and it was meant to detail lived experience of a political subject. So, I mean, everything you're talking about is really great, Poet, man. And I just, my question for you is like, insofar as your writing has been. You've attempted to take it in some ways, insofar as you've taken it in a political direction. You know, do you have any advice for any writers that are attempting to express a political viewpoint through their creativity? Like, I don't know, man. It's like, for me, like when I write this stuff, it's like, it's very important to me, if I'm going to write a political song, I'm trying to be non-accusational. You know, so maybe in terms of your own efforts in this domain, could you maybe share some tips or pointers for any young artists who are attempting to write into that type of content?
There's a way to articulate the anger and the pain and the there's a beauty in that, right? There's a beauty in that pain and anger, but you have to articulate it in such a way that someone is going to stop and hear you out, right? If we think about like what's going on, or very much some of the Bob Marley songs, right? I'm trying to think of some of our bigger, writers who kind of dabbled in that. You don't want to be, I'm not sure if you guys were ever in college, but you got that guy on the bullhorn just screaming at people on the sidewalk, right?
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to be that guy because nobody's going to stop to listen to that guy. But if you're the guy that's sitting there with the guitar, or the young lady, or the, whomever that's sitting there with something meaningful to say, and you're marrying that with music that fits that mood, and that could be anything from like Rage Against the Machine to whatever. It's got to fit the mood, and it's got to make people want to stop and listen to you. It can't just be a rant or very surface or accusational, or because what we've got to do, I think, as human beings is we've really got to talk to each other. And you don't want to talk to somebody that's not going to listen. You don't want to be that somebody that things just have to be my way or there's no way. So part of that is really just peeling back those layers to find the beauty and to articulate kind of what those things are. And a lot of what I do in writing is perspective, right? Like if you're thinking about a door that you want to go through, or you're thinking about the knob, or you're thinking about the little crack on the floor that some things kind of slide in there, you're thinking about the color of the door, you're thinking about just busting the door wide open, or you're thinking about just, hey, well, let me just try and see if it's open, And so trying to really get into the nuance and the crevice and the very specific things to you, to articulate those things, I think that's what you need to do as a social and political writer. And hopefully I have some songs that I would love to release. And I also think there's a level of commitment, right? That you have to really lay into what you're trying to say and give it time and come back to it. It can't be something I think that's undercooked. A song that's undercooked is really not going to have those legs. A song that is really well thought and poignant can I think at least start the conversation or get into some places musically that maybe there's a song of mine that could get into a room that I can't get into. But if I write the song in a certain way, it'll get those ears versus me just maybe I want to say victim writing. It's like you are the victim, but you've got to articulate that pain because a lot of people are hurting, right? Jimmy's pain is not better than or different than my pain. So who am I to say, hey, my pain is worse or, needs more attention? That's debatable. I think that's when people kind of get tuned out. But if you say, hey, here's a moment that I was in, would you listen to it? And I want to listen to your moment. And I want to listen to your moment, Jules. And I want to listen to your moment, Garrett. And then we can all come back and say, man, there's something there. There's a thread, right? That we're all as humans feeling. And that's where I try to write from, is that human spirit that, a kid could feel it. An old person feels it. I mean, I'm always blown away when people come up to me, from singing that don't look like me, that, have no idea who I am, but we had that moment together as human beings, as spirits, or, whatever you think. So hopefully I answered that.
Thank you for that, man. That's beautiful.
An undercooked song is a great image. I mean, how many undercooked songs have we heard though, guys? Like, come on, it when you hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, most of the stuff on the radio these days. And I really love the going back to you mentioning details specific to you. That's something that really resonated with me. Because you can write these big message songs, but if they're generic, they're not going to get across. But if you, like you said, write it from that place, like we've been talking about, the small details, that's where the truth, that's where the truth lies. And then everything else is secondary. So.
Yep. And when you get that as a writer, man, it's very empowering. That's why, people, I don't hang out with people that say they have writer's block. I don't think that really, exists. And I think as creative people, I have different projects that I work on. So if I do feel like, I don't know if you guys ever have this. Sometimes maybe you're working on something too much that it sounds bad. You're like, oh man, I don't like this anymore. I've been,
Oh yeah.
I have weekends if my wife is gone. I mean, I'll be doing 16, 18 hours straight of just working on songs. And then they'll sound bad, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I need to get away from that and work on something else. And then when I come back to it, I'm like, okay, this was good. I was just, a little ear fatigue or, whatever. So.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't think that writer's block exists. I think that it's all just percolating and it'll come out eventually.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you do when you write some stuff, sometimes you kind of put it away and then sometimes you grow into a song, like later on, you're like, oh yeah, this is like more insightful than I thought, or this actually makes more sense now than I listened to it. So it's kind of interesting the way songs have that second, even songs you write have that second life of like, oh.
Yeah. There's a song on the record called Rear View that I was trying to write for my mom, who was a truck driver. And it's gotta be, what is this? It's gotta be at least like 5 years old. And I went with my buddy Johnny from Austin Music Foundation, and I was driving over there and I was like, man, okay, you go into a co-write. You're like, okay, what I want to come with. And we finally got that song to the finish line. And like you said, I think it was time, maturity in my playing, maturity in articulating what I want to say and perspective. And it all just came together in this magical moment. And it's, what I believe is one of my, best songs.
Nice. Wait till you meet George Inslee, Poet. I don't know if you met George, but he has a song that he's worked on. He tells the story about he worked on this song for like 10 years and
wow,
how it took him to, he had parts of it and he kept coming back to it. And then he finally kind of finally had like made the way through it to the end of the song. Yeah. So it's awesome.
And that's the maturity. And that's what I would hope for songwriters now, because music, I mean, I have songs that were released or finished before there was the streaming. And those ideas are still new. And I'm looking forward to going back to them and not necessarily trying to change them, but to find the ones that are still resonating and still kind of moving me and sharing those with people. Because the more music that kind of gets dumped out there, the more quality music that we're going to need. And with AI, I think I just imagine people seeking small rooms or festivals where they can go and hear another human being playing. I don't think that that's going to go anywhere. If a corporation wants to make and stream a robot rapper or singer-songwriter, go ahead. And if people enjoy that, let them do it. But I believe there are people who really enjoy the vibrations of strings, right? The tinkling of a piano or of a bass, or the air that you feel from the drums and the cymbals. I think that people are still going to want that. And the people who are really committed to their craft, those will be the writers who can, I think, still make a living and who can still, pack out a room.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
All this talking reminded me of I don't even know if it's connected really, but it reminded me of my son's finding this old binder that's like this big, this thick.
Wow.
Huge 3-ring binder, this thick, filled of lyrics and poetry that I wrote in high school.
Nice.
And it's from my first marriage, and I had stuffed it in a file cabinet somewhere. And just like last month, my oldest son came in with it and was like, "Oh, we found this. Here you go." And I thought it was lost. I thought it was gone forever. And I spent like 3 days going through it, and most of it is just trash. It's the most embarrassing things that I wish that it was lost forever. But
publish it.
There's some stuff that there are little kernels of truth in there.
Of course,
not necessarily I'm going to go back to and use, that, but maybe use that as a jumping off point for something else. Do you ever do anything like that?
Totally. And that's why I say, like, I have, I try not to let any idea get past me. So if usually I'm hearing something and I'll open up a Pro Tools session and just grab the idea. I might play through it for 15, 20 minutes. I have a lot of songs that I'm trying to go back to. And it's interesting. I'm looking for that last song for the record. And it's like the hardest song. So I'm going back through pieces of things that I have to try and see like what really fits. And I think when you do it with honesty and sincerity, you can kind of jump back into that moment and kind of find that spark again and really get through the tune. And if that one's not sparking, then, you know, sometimes I'll just try to ramble through a few and see like, okay, which one am I feeling right now? Like what's going to sort of ignite that fire in this particular moment? So yeah, I totally do that. Actually, my friend from college found a couple of old CDs and it makes me cringe a little bit because I had no idea what I was doing as an engineer. But I think there was still the poet was still there. So I'm looking forward to hearing those and
hearing you talk about, you know, trying to figure out that final song in your album. It sounds like, you know, the art of the album itself is still very important to you. Instead of playing the singles game, are you excited to put out this full record?
I'm definitely excited for the full record. I think I want to sort of straddle the fence a little bit. I think, you know, when we talk about waterfall strategy and albums and, you know, content and doing that, I want people to hear the songs. I want them to hear them stripped. I want them to hear the produced versions. I want them to hear the songs that didn't make the record. So hopefully this year, people will hear a lot more music from me. But the record is super important because it is that moment, right? It's like when you have vinyl and you listen to the A side and you listen to the B side, and there was very strong ideas. I'm trying to think. I got some records here on the wall I think I wouldn't say that it's a lost art, but I just don't find that all of the songs when I try to flip through records are necessarily meshing. And I see a lot of songwriters who aren't able to be consistent with putting out music, right? So then you have that whole issue, which troubles me. I want to put out the record. I want to put out the singles. I want to just find what can I be consistent with? And I think because I love recording, I think I can put out more than maybe the average person, but also want to help artists. I think it's really, really not fair what artists have to deal with between just even the pressure of writing a song, right? Let's get it there. You got to be inspired and write a good song. Yeah. And then you've got to find a room. You've got to find an engineer. You might need musicians. Yeah. Then you've got to mix and master. Then you've got to put money behind your music. And that's all just to say that maybe that's not even going to get you where you think it might get you, right? Whatever your goals are. And
a couple of shares.
A couple of shares.
Yeah.
You know? So that's another part of what I'm really hoping to do here, because I'm always going to be poet and I'm always going to be writing and hopefully sharing on different and bigger stages. But I want people to still feel the same inspiration that I feel to live an inspired life and be able to write songs and articulate that for people. You know, I'm sure you guys have had conversations. People like, oh, you know, this guy was telling me yesterday, oh, I used to play clarinet and I used to do this. And, oh, I think it's so dope that, you know, you can play music and that you can write songs and, you know, play with words. I want more people to really kind of experience that and more songwriters to be able to get their music out because they deserve it, right? I think it's unfair that if you grow up, right, and you say, man, you know what, I want to write songs. That's what I want to spend my time on earth doing. That it becomes so hard for you to do we should be able to make a living writing songs, sharing those songs with people, being happy. Yes. But it's so hard. There's so many obstacles. There's so many different things coming at you, telling you you're not successful now that it's hard. It's really, really hard.
Pretty much every one of my songs, Poet, is about that.
Yeah.
It's like the unending battle between art and commerce and having a day job and wishing I could just make money writing my songs. Like,
it's either that or Billy the Kid.
Yeah, or Billy, I write about Billy the Kid a lot, which you'll find out.
You know, I'll say that, man. Like, you know, as a writer, you can go through every now and then. You have a gig which like makes you go home and question all of your life decisions to that point, right? Every now and then, you have like a really devastating sort of like, why am I at this point? You know,
what am I doing?
And you can start to question like this path that you're on. But I would say that the answer to that is write better songs. Yeah. Stand upon better compositions. You know, if what you're having is sort of a lack of faith in the overall path and if it's viability, that gets an easier judgment to make if you write better songs.
Part of that too is, and I kind of got this from Austin Music Foundation, is you have to take ownership of the successes and the failures, right? If you're not seeing where you are, and you're on one of those gigs, and interestingly enough, I'll tell you guys, that was last Sunday. It was 40 something degrees, right?
Oh, no.
This indoor gig. It wasn't a lot of traffic. The gig was fine, right? Like I enjoyed the guys that I was playing with. And sure enough, when I got done playing, I had the email from Jimmy. Nice. And it changed my whole thing.
Yeah,
but
of course.
It was me putting myself out there, right? Like if you're not trying to book, if you're not sending yourself out there, you don't have that ebb and flow, but you got to pick yourself up and take ownership and say, you know what? I'm responsible for part of, you know, what my success is going to be. And they're not all wins. But when you do get that one, when somebody says, hey, man, we want to see you here, it means the world to you.
Yeah. I think you also... Oh, sorry, Jimmy.
No,
well,
just...
I mean...
Go ahead.
No. But it also... The older I get as a musician and a songwriter, also kind of like... everybody's got to figure out for themselves what they think success is. Dude, as far as my opinion, like getting to play the old quarter with Jimmy and like doing that was like, all right, that's it. Everything else is icing on the cake. I can do whatever. So
that's it.
That was was one of my dreams, is to do that. And so doing that.
That's it.
Yeah, I love the...
Didn't we just say don't take these venues into your essence, bro? Like,
you're right. No, you're right. But like that kind of show, listening, that's the kind of the dream that I've had. It's like playing that kind of listening room show where everybody's kind of like listening to me and my weird stories, and they seem to be enjoying the song. Like that to me is, I've played a lot. I mean, just all of us have as musicians played a lot of 4-hour gigs that were a slog that I still had fun, but it was kind of a soundtrack to somebody else's Friday night instead of being the thing, you know, instead of being the song was the thing. But to have shows like that was really not so much that it was the old quarter, although the old quarter is awesome, but to have those kind of shows that were people were, you could hear a pin drop, you know, people were listening. That's huge.
And doesn't matter for a songwriter, that's the pinnacle, right? So but I love the fact that you brought up, you know, that we have to take ownership of the wins and the failures. Because I honestly, if you don't take ownership of that and you just think of your failures or somebody else's fault, then you're just going to get more and more cynical as life goes on. And then why even do this in the first place?
I also think you need to be doing this for some other reason, other like gun to your head, can't stop doing it, sort of thing. You know, like
I'd be writing songs no matter what. You know, it's my way of like making sense of my world. Like I don't know how else to live.
That's exactly it.
I mean, and there is a certain degree of like that. It is this difficult to do that it requires all of that. I mean, it's like in a certain way, it's like that keeps the riffraff out, and in another way, it's self-affirming in some ways. I mean, I feel like if I couldn't write a song, my whole personality just wouldn't work. You know, like it's just like who I am at my core would not be. You know, so I don't know any other way to exist, and I'm a lifer. I've met other people and known immediately. I've been like, you're a lifer as well, and those are the people that tend to. Even if they do have writer's block, they reframe it and say like, "Nah, it's just percolating," you know.
So Or
Tell me.
you literally just quoted me. So
I did.
Yeah.
You know, like that's
That's true,
'cause,
though.
I mean,
Yeah.
but that's kind of the mentality that one has to take. There's a good book about this sort of stuff called The War of Art. Yeah, and
Who
something
is that, Jules?
Stephen Pressman, maybe is his name.
That sounds-
possibly.
yeah, that sounds
I don't
right.
know
I've
if we
got the,
Google it or something.
I've got the companion book here. It's Put Your Ass Where
Nice.
Your Heart Wants to Be. Stephen Pressfield.
Pressfield.
Pressfield, yes, okay.
Okay. So he
Yeah.
talks about in The War of Art, he talks about this how to be miserable. And know how to be miserable. And he talks about how the Marines, as a special branch of the forces, are like especially good at being miserable and especially good at dealing with inadequate situations and supplies and stuff. And he says, as an artist, you must know how to be miserable, to know how to like eat bologna sandwiches for 14 days straight, even though you have some money because you're putting that towards a project.
Yeah, it's
stuff
going
like
towards
that.
recording.
You know, yeah, and it's just certain commitments and one makes and an overall mindset and lifestyle approach in many ways. So anyway, so I just think that like, yeah, if you're doing this and you need, and it's going to get to a point where you're going to affect other people in a way that's qualitatively worth aspiring as a life goal towards, you know, like one must be a lifer and committed towards these ideas. And if you're ever struggling in that overall pursuit, know that if you have a lack of faith in the viability of the path, it's like you're just not standing upon adequate songs. You got to stand upon adequate compositions to present that are worth standing for 10 years, like the Black Pumas, like you said, you know?
That's so, yeah. Yep.
So, yeah.
And that's, I think, you know, being here in Austin and seeing some of the, so LA's a bit different, right? Because it's way bigger. But here in Austin, what I'm also noticing is that, to that same point, when you go to Saxon Pub on a Monday or a Tuesday and it's packed out, and you're like, I want to be on that stage, well, you just don't know how to put butts in seats yet.
Yeah.
Right? Or people just don't know who you are. And that's where the War of Art really helped me, because I think I read 30 pages and I was at the piano, you know, like, look, man, you gotta keep writing. You know, if these songs aren't good enough, I'm gonna write another record. And if that record isn't good enough, I'm gonna write another record. And if that record isn't good enough, I'm gonna, you know, keep doing it.
Keep trying.
Because you'll see that there's such a, and maybe I think it's probably different here in Texas as well. There's when you understand like the history of Texas songwriters and Texas music, I think Texas really appreciates its history and its writers. Even though they're not, you know, running around the mics or, you know, all on Instagram and TikTok, they're still packing out venues and they're still on the road, and it's awesome to see. And to even like have that perk my eyes and ears. It's like, hey, okay, that person is still getting after it. And they're gray and they've been writing for a long time. They've packed out the Saxon Pub and people know these songs, and
that's James McMurtry.
Yeah. That's
McMurtry.
what she would hope for. You know?
Yep. I got it. It's good.
Wow.
Nice.
Well, I've got a couple more questions. Do you have anything else before we go, Jules? We've already gotten pretty philosophical, but
I like those.
But like, I guess, you know, lately I've been thinking a lot about the concept of kenosis, of like self-emptying. In Christian theology, they call it like kenosis. It's just, you know, and Cornel West brings this up. I love Cornel. I watch a lot of his lectures, and one has a whole education if you just go and research the names he drops during the course of a lecture, you know. But I would say that especially interesting to me is the concept of kenosis in terms of, well, I originally started thinking about this in terms of performing. And what would it be to empty oneself completely during the course of a performance? But then I've really started to think about this in terms of emptying oneself on a page, because the quality of writing, as we've been speaking to, you know, like commitment towards a quality of writing requires a candor and a sort of authenticity that's almost like self-confrontational in some ways, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, so I just wonder, man, as you go through your own poetic journey, and you're attempting to, I mean, can you maybe, I don't even know if it's generative for you, but like, can you maybe speak to the possibility of self-emptying in your own poetic process?
Yeah, actually I can, man. You guys are getting pretty deep here.
That's Jules.
I can, unless I was doing something, I got scammed to write this one song, but that's another story. Every song that I write, I usually cry at some point in the writing process. And it's an indicator for me of touching that part of myself that's like, hey, I need to get this out, or this is hitting something that is not physically tangible, but maybe spiritually or emotionally tangible. And the way that I try to perform is not to be so performative that you can't let that out on stage. So there are times where, you know, my voice might crack, or if I really start to think about this song or the words, I won't be able to get through it. You know, I went to LA recently, and just being back there, I was visiting my mom, who's, you know, going through some things, and, you know, I just let it all hang out. And, you know, I think that's really the only thing that I know. And it comes from where I started. It comes from where I want to go. It comes from the way I want to interact with people, you know, before, during, and after a performance. And sometimes we don't get those moments back. Get that one opportunity to, you know, empty yourself out on stage for people. And are you just mailing it in, or are you just trying to show them how good of a songwriter you are? Or are you really trying to say, hey, man, this was a moment for me, and maybe it could be a moment for you? So that is something that I definitely try to do everywhere that I go. It's good now to recognize it. You know, a lot of times, if I'm sharing the stage with someone, especially, I'll give you guys an example. The open mic is the easiest one, right? Somebody gets up before me, or they do comedy, or they talk a lot and try to tell people what their song is about. I just don't say anything. There's no point.
Yep.
I'm just going to go for broke. I'm just going to lay it all out on the line. And I find that it brings people so far in, we're able to immediately have a connection, right? Because sometimes that banter, there are places where it's good, right? Like festivals, it's great because, you know, the crowd is so into who's on stage. When you're at a mic and you got half the people that are waiting to get on, half the people are, you know, there's 25% that are there just because their friend is performing, right? And then you got another 25 people that, you know, care about what's going on. You've got to just show them who you are. And that's whatever that 30 minutes, that 5 minutes in, it's so precious, man. And I wish that more people realize that like that time that you have people's attention is valuable. And you're either going to show them exactly who you are and how you think and how you articulate certain things, or you're just going to squander it and they're going to give you a regular clap and kind of move on.
A courtesy clap.
Yeah, a courtesy clap.
Yeah.
I'm taking that to heart, because I do have a problem of telling dad jokes in between my really heartbreaking songs.
Yeah, you do.
And so
is it to kind of buffer yourself, or is it
both? I guess both. But yeah, I attended Jules' CD release party recently, and he did the exact opposite. It was the most intense performance I've been to all year. He's like staring down my soul singing these songs, and he was not afraid to do that. And that's between him doing that and then you saying what you said, like, it's inspiring me to like go to an open mic night and not say a word and just sing my songs and see what happens, you know.
Let this song speak for you.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's what they should, right?
It's what I used to do. That's what I used to do.
Yeah, that's what I find, that people shouldn't have to leave your song not knowing what we're talking about, especially if you're a singer-songwriter. Now, there's some genres that are ambiguous or whatever, and they have their space, right? But when we talk about singer-songwriters who are following in the tradition of certain writers, no one should, I don't care if you only sing a verse and a chorus, people should know what the gist of the song is. And that's one of my sort of pet peeves. It's like, get in there, man, dissect, figure out how to say that so you don't have to explain yourself for every song, right? There's a difference, I think. And like I said, I'm looking forward to hearing you, Jenny, but there's a difference between, just the way you want to interact with the crowd and doing a dad joke and saying, okay, this song was about one time I was at a red light. And then the car in front of me didn't want to go. So I was honking and the car still didn't go. And then I thought about, we could get that from the song. But if you have a certain banter and a demeanor like that's your personality, then lean into that. It's just
man. Yeah. I will say that in so many ways, man, like I think the world is grown weary of the sort of eternal South Parkification of all that's holy. Like the sort of way that irony is spread everywhere, the way that nothing is sacred, the way that and I would say that
real quick.
Yes,
Sorry, what did you say? The eternal South Parkification.
South Parkification.
Holy.
Yes.
Okay,
It's like
that's the title of today's episode.
But more like, so they're weary of the eternal South Parkification of all that is holy and all that is sacred, right? And the world yearns for a sort of newfounded sincerity in a way that it's like when somebody has the balls to be vulnerable in public.
Vulnerable. That's what I was going to say, Jules. Yeah,
Absolutely. Sometimes I question myself. Like, am I the only person that has, the fortitude to go up there and be like, I'm a man. I have emotions. This is how I'm feeling. And if I'm feeling this and I know that you're feeling it too, and we're going to talk about these feelings and I'm not going to look away,
Exactly.
No, you don't look away. You look straight into my soul.
It's difficult, man, because it's like one needs to be to a certain degree intensive about these things that they're bringing forth, like one has to be committed towards these ideas, and it's you can't break character and stuff. But I would say that I just happen to be intensive and of this character. I just happen to be this way. It's not like I went up there and did like an Andy Kaufman bit or something like that.
No, I don't. There's no difference really for me from Jules and then Jules. I mean, not in a bad way, but
But it's like I just happen to be this person, right? So but if I was a person that was very, I don't know, man, like not myself. If I was a different character and I showed that character and it was authentic, it would have elicited a response as well. So going back to this yearning for sincerity, right? It's like sincere core is what it is. Like, it's like, so long as you can be capital A authentic, which I have my own critiques of that phrase, but so long as you can bring forth who you are in such a way that you allow yourself to be seen by other people. I tell artists about this too, is that like, as an artist, you need to be able to distill yourself down into a single serving spoonful that adequately communicates who you are, what you stand for, what your ideas are, and why, and so often that can be done with like just a video about yourself, or something to that end that you can point people to. But like the weariness of the irony of the human condition overall, wanting something more substantive, goes back to one of your original points, where people will always be wanting to get into a room and feel the vibration of strings, and it there's a philosopher named Byung-Chul Han that talks about how in a way society feels like it's this is my phrase, it's not Byung-Chul Han's phrase, but it feels like we're like malnourished of the soul, in a way, because there is a deficiency in authentic encounters with the other. And this world is hyper-mediated, and this is Byung-Chul Han now, and some Jean Baudrillard in there, like how this world is hyper-mediated by screens. Never before in human history have so many people typed so many messages so frantically
Yeah, unprecedented. Yep.
Our communication is separated from the author in the form of text that doesn't imply tone, facial expressions, emotions. Like we're just mediated by all these different types of mediators, right? And so what we have is a deficiency of authentic encounters. And Byung-Chul Han calls this the hell of the same, meaning that sameness expels otherness through just not having another at all, because it's all the same. So anyway, all this to say is that you're onto something when you say that human beings will always wish to be sort of communing with actual string vibrations in a room in which you encounter the other, and the way you go about music with a genuine curiosity in the other when you go into these spaces is something that is increasingly rare but sought after. And I think it cuts to the core of what makes us human beings as well. So in some ways we're all very primitive with what we do, right? We're just storytellers and poets that are doing something that humans require, I suppose. So yeah.
Definitely.
Agreed. Yeah. Speaking of, togetherness and searching for that authentic experience, coming down to the Corpus Christi Songwriters, I don't know. Let's hope it's authentic enough for you. But what are you hoping to gather from your experiences down here?
Oh man. Last year was my first time playing festivals. I played Luck Reunion during South by Southwest, and I went to Mahia for the Cindy Walker Days Festival, and also went to the Annapolis Songwriting Festival in Maryland. And there's an energy when you get a bunch of good writers in a room, and even some not so good writers or people who are kind of tone deaf to the vibe of the room. That's really what I'm looking forward to, just fully for the weekend, being surrounded by music and musicians, and looking at guitars and hearing lyrics and meeting new people and seeing new faces, and seeing the connection that people have to my music, whether it's someone saying, "Hey, I really appreciated that song," or us crying together. So that is it. You don't always get that much concentrated, right? Like songwriting energy in one place. Looking forward to that. My wife, she comes with me, and I just love, enjoying her and us getting to experience those things together. That's definitely a highlight. So we've been in Texas now, I think this might be 3-4 years, and it's a big state, and I'm really looking forward to getting to as many places I can to visit and share music. It's a beautiful city. If I'm not mistaken, I think you guys are near the water.
Oh yeah.
I definitely love smaller cities as well. So I'm sure I'm just everywhere I go, I just envision myself being there. And you guys are so close. I would love to just be immersed in what you guys are doing, see what you're doing, and figure out how to bridge that gap, because it doesn't take a lot for me. I feel extremely successful, and sometimes like when you see your name on a flyer and it's really small, but you're still on the flyer, right?
That's right.
And it's success to me, and so I just can't wait for that. I'm actually looking forward to the open mics as well. It's like you get to hear music all day and then go out and hear some more music, maybe share another song. So that's super cool that you guys do that. Last time in Maryland, I ate way too much. So I'm a foodie. So you guys got any food recommendations?
I'll send you a list. Yeah, there's all the seafood you want and all the good.
I mean, we'll be close to we'll be close to a bunch of good stuff, actually. Mm-hmm. So
definitely, But honestly, man, just moving to Texas, man, and seeing my career and being, I think I always thought early on I wanted to be at a certain maturity level when this happens, because it's easy, I think, to get lost in it, right? Once people are telling you how good you are and you're singing in front of thousands of people, there are numerous stories of people that have to go to drug abuse, alcohol abuse, or different vices, because it's such a roller coaster. Now I'm at a point where I'm so even keel. I'm very settled. I know who I am. I know what I want to say and how I want to say it, and I'm not moved. I trust what I have to say and how I have to say it, and I'm really looking forward to. I don't know if you guys can see. So if you guys have a poster, you guys will be up on my wall there.
Nice.
Of just, where I've been and where I was able to say, look, man, that's something that I did. And I feel very, very successful and grateful that you guys chose me. So
I know we're honored. We're honored that you to be a part of your journey. So
hell yeah, man.
Thank you. And so you'll be playing again. This is Poet Hawkins. You'll be playing Sunday, correct? Sunday, February 18th. This will be at House of Rock. This will be the final day of the festival. Woo-hoo. And we're excited. We can't wait to have you down here. But before we let you go,
here's the big question.
Yeah,
That's the big one.
In the podcast, the same question over and over again. So it's your turn. And it's our Almost Famous question from the movie Almost Famous. Have you seen the movie?
No.
Okay. All right. We're still batting like 50-50 at this point, but that's fine.
Okay.
Anyway, so there's a question asked at the very end of the movie, and it's the most generic question of all time. But every time I ask it, it just garners these most amazing answers, and they're always so different. So I'm excited to hear yours. Poet, what do you love about music?
What do I love about music? Music showed me who I am. It wasn't until I started writing that I found my voice. Interestingly enough, I was trying to get the attention of this young lady in college. And so I wrote her, I forget what it was, like a love note. Mind you, I'm like 18 at the time. And it got me a little bit of interaction. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And since that point, I've been writing nonstop poetry and music. And I think I found, who I was and what I was supposed to be doing during this lifetime. And that to me is more valuable than any amount of money or, a physical thing that you could have. To kind of know yourself.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
All right. Can't wait to meet you in person.
Yeah, man. We're excited, Poet. Heck yeah, dude.
I'll be there the whole weekend, man. I'm going to try to
awesome.
We'll talk as many places as I can. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we'll hang out.
Please, I know, attend the festival and enjoy the festival, but also enjoy the city. Get to, get out and get some seafood. Walk across, walk on
the seawall.
The seawall. Thank you.
Yeah,
and
pretty.
Do everything in between.
If we can find a time, Poet, man, I would love to play some slide with your piano, man.
Whoa, yes.
Hey, say less, man.
Dude, he's so good, Poet. We jammed the other day.
I mean,
awesome.
The stuff that you write, I mean, anything with a sort of gospel flair, anything that's like, has that room for that sacred steel sort of stuff going on, man.
So good.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah, I would love that.
Someone's finally telling Jules to say less. All right.
No, we jammed the other night. It was awesome. Like it was fun. Slide playing. I was just playing like a simple blues, and Jules was just like, it was gorgeous.
Oh,
dude.
yeah.
Thank you.
I would love to, man.
Yeah, man.
Let's figure it out.
All right.
For sure.
All right. Thank you so much, Poet.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys, man.
Such a great conversation.
Yeah,
we'll
man.
see you soon.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
See you guys soon, guys.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.